call this meeting to order. Welcome here, everyone. And at this time, I would like to give the opening to Councillor Jake Siemens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Every community has its community builders, often forgotten in time, but have played a major role in some intricate part of the community, and Steinbach is no different. I would consider Mary Barkman as a community builder. She had a vision, didn't give up on that vision, even when it looked hopeless. Mary grew up in a book-loving family and passed that love on to her children. In the late 1960s, Mary Barkman was the associate editor of the Carillon and was married to Johnny Barkman. Johnny had a part ownership, along with future Steinbach Mayor A.D. Penner, of a road construction company that worked in other small rural communities in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. In the summer construction season, she spent time with that construction crew in those small communities and often used the local library. When back home in winter, she wondered why Steinbach had no library. To access books for her children, she mail ordered them through the Provincial Extension Library. And then in talking to other town residents, she found out that many had a desire for a library in this community. In 1968, Mary, along with Pastor Leonard Epp, who was the pastor of the Grace Church, and Ted Cutlass, principal of the Steinbach Junior High, made a request to Town Council to establish a public library. Council, on the whole, thought it was a good idea, but worried about cost and duplicating school libraries. In 1969, Mary called the first meeting of the Friends of the Library. And it included people from all walks of life. They paid a $1 membership and offered their skills in the effort to support a library. Over the next 2 years, they made several presentations to the Town Council, and they built some support. Mayor and MLA of the day, L.A. Barkman, asked them to provide more information, but suggested they look to be a regional library. At that time, the province was offered a grant of $10,000 to establish a regional library and only $200 for a municipal library. Mary approached all the local RMs, and a referendum was then held with the RM of Hanover, the village of Niverville, and Steinbach. It was held during the municipal elections in October 1971. Those years, council served 2-year terms, with one half of council being elected each year. Voter turnout was only 20%, and the RM of Hanover and village of Niverville soundly defeated the referendum, as there was many people not happy with it. But Steinbach had voted 2-1 in favor of a library. It was a blow to Mary and her Friends of the Library group. Mary decided to meet with now MLA, L.A. Barkman, and he told her that Bill 50 was before the legislature, and if passed, it would be mandatory for the town to establish a local library as long as they could get 8% of the electorate to sign a petition. In July of 1972, Bill 50 passed, and Mary, along with Melvin C. and Elvira Taves and Dr. Dennis Giesbrecht and Mary Rose Dirksen started to collect signatures, and by September they presented the 360 signatures required. Council minutes from September 18th meeting included information that the newly completed Civic Center originally had plans for a space for a library. Third reading of the library bylaw was held November 6, 1972. In one of his last meetings as a councillor, Councillor Jake Epp made the motion, and Councillor Epp was one of the few councillors to be very vocal and supportive of the library. The Friends of the Library were told that they would not get space at the Civic Center and would be responsible to look for their own space. The Hanover School Division administration offers were one of the first rentals here at the Civic Center. They were located in the engineering department, where our engineering department is today. They were in the process of moving to their new division offices that had been attached to the old high school, or SCI, on Lumber Avenue, which is today Stony Brook Middle School. Town Council voted to not have the library at the Civic Center, as more rent could be had by renting it to the Department of Agriculture and the assessment branches, so they moved in here. In fall of 1972, the SRSS opened its doors, which made the old junior high, or Cornelson School, which is currently the Arts and Cultural Building, available for rent. In February of 1973, the Friends of the Library rented approximately 1/3 of the top floor at a cost of $1,400 a year from the Hanover School Division. In July of 1973, Department of Education put out a tender to sell Cornelison School, and the town of Steinbach was a successful bidder at $35,000. During discussions at council chambers, Mayor A.D. Penner claimed this would be a wise purchase, as it would be an ideal location for the indoor pool. The first library board was appointed in February of '73, consisting of Mary Barkman, Melvin Taves, Mary Rose Dirksen, Dr. Dan Giesbrecht, and Councillor Jim Penner. They then hired the first librarian, Iris Lowen, an assistant, Gladys Barkman, and also a special assistant by the name of Bert Suss, who was the first librarian at the SRSS. The town of Steinbach provided a $20,000 startup grant. The Steinbach Library opened to the general public on October the 9th, 1973. Many councillors have served on the board. While Councillor Jacob didn't serve on the board, he did have a large impact on council to make it happen. Future MLA Jim Penner was the first councillor to serve. Other councillors' names included Bob Smith, Bob Fry, Kerry Penner, future mayors Les Magnuson and Ernie Friesen, just to name a few. And there are some on many on this council that have also served. There are library board members who served many years, including Melvin Taves, John Neufeld, Marlene Penner, and Leona Rempel, all serving for more than 15 plus years, along with Bruce Taggart, who provided many years of oversight at the library board. In 1997, the library opened on Elmdale Street, and that was just under 8,000 square feet and built at a cost of just over $1 million. Imagine that today. Again, it was a long debated issue on council, but it was Councillor Kerry Penner who provided the vocal support for the project to be built. An expansion adding 4,500 square feet happened in 2012 at a cost of just over $2 million. It also had been an election issue in the 2010 elections. The current library has a total square footage of just over 13,600 square feet. Over the years, the Jacob Library has served Steinbach well, and for many years it has the highest loan rate per capita in the province of Manitoba. Last year, the circulation was just under 250,000 books. Many people have been well served by the library since 1973. It is a gem in our community and one of the best in the province. It was a vision, along with much hard work, of Mary Barkman and others who rallied those in our community to make the library happen. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Siemens. Council, we have the agenda in front of us, looking for a motion to adopt. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Hebert. Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Council, we have the minutes of February 4, 2025, the regular council meeting. We've all had a chance to review. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Siemens. Any comments?
No comments.
Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Council, is there any business arising from the minutes? Okay, seeing none, we will, it's just a little past 7:35, so we'll go directly into the public hearing. We have 6A, the conditional use 2025-01. This is for 86 Industrial Road. At this time, I will close the council meeting, open the public hearing. Mr. Warkendine, could you please introduce this file?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And for members of council, conditional use application file CU-2025-01 is for a property located at 86 Industrial Road in Steinbach. The owner of the property is Solomon Budala Holdings, Inc., with the applicant for the conditional use being Avito, Inc. Purpose of the conditional use application is to allow the operation of a retail sales business on the subject property. Under City of Steinbach zoning bylaw 2100, all retail sales are a conditional use within the M1 light industrial zone. Notices, as are required under the Planning Act, have been issued. There is no written correspondence on file. With respect to the application, the subject property is a newly created industrial site located within the Steinbach Industrial Park, and it is located at the corner of Industrial Road and Acres Drive. The intended uses within an industrial zone include that the site will generally be accessed by staff for primarily manufacturing purposes, with few or no customers, and used only infrequently by members of the general public. The application indicates that the proposed property or development due to the intention of the landlord to relocate an existing retail tenant from a Main Street property to the subject property with a proposed 10,000 square foot retail space. I have provided some precedent files for council's information. As I mentioned, the subject property is currently vacant, with the applicant seeking approval to permit retail sales for the site. If council does decide to either approve or deny the application, any decision of council would run with the land and as a result would affect the entire site. Of particular concern to administration in this application is the land in question has been sold to the developer at cost with the understanding that it be developed for industrial purposes. If a retail sales use is approved for this site, it has the potential of essentially requiring the Steinbach taxpayer to subsidize commercial development and use. And through taxpayer funding, the city has effectively become a competitor for private commercial property developers. The recommendation from administration is that council deny the application under file CU-2025-01.
Thank you, Mr. Workney. Is the applicant here today? Do you wish to speak? Okay, just state your name and address and then continue.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Stefan Hodelman, 33161 Lone Boulevard. As mentioned, this application is in regards to 86 Industrial Road. On my initial application, I did indicate that it was our intention is not to have the entire site have retail permitted, but rather just a use for specific tenants. Obviously, we've been before council and we've heard you loud and clear with 110 Industrial Road that a blanket approval for the site would not be good, and that's not the intention of the industrial park. And thus, we've asked specifically for adult and teen challenge, which is the tenant that needs to be moved off Main Street to be accommodated in this space. So just a little bit of background. Adult and teen challenge is a great organization that's been tending to a crucial need in Steinbach. Steinbach has an increasing faces an increasing problem with addiction, just like many other communities across the country. A larger presence would be beneficial to the city. The present location is about 5,000 square feet. Within that 5,000 square feet, they have a specific model that they provide counseling. They have some offices, and Daniel from Teen Challenge here today, and you could, if needed, explain that model further. Their main mission is not to operate a thrift store. It is how they get their, the thrift store model is a vehicle that they use to effectively achieve the results that they need. So as to why they can no longer stay at the Main Street location, parking's been difficult, and they desperately need a bigger space. They operate other locations that are larger, and those models seem to be more successful, and they have more capacity as well. The other reason why they can no longer stay in their current location is because of the redevelopment at 366 Main Street. The roof in its current state is not able to support the additional snow load caused by the 6-story building next door, and as of next winter, the building will have to remain vacant. We have intentions, or the ownership group of 366 Main Street has an intention of expanding that building further once this building is removed that they're currently in. So how will this space, if permitted on Industrial Road, be used? Their goal is to have an assembly line where they will clean, refurbish, and assemble furniture and other goods. They want to have a retail floor area to sell these goods, and it will employ a fair amount of people. Some of those people will be on permanent basis, so they're people that work with the patrons. Other people will be the patrons themselves, which are there based on term basis with the program. The Teen Challenge model, among other things, aims to provide employment to its patrons, and they've explored many different options, such as, for example, construction labor, where they work with people to integrate them back and just even to provide employment while they go through the program. They find that when the employment is provided by a third party, they cannot control the environment to a degree that provides the best results. Obviously, you run into different tradespeople with other habits, and it's just not as controlled of an environment that provides the patrons for optimal success of the program. The expansion to a bigger space at a rate of cost that is manageable is what they ultimately need. The current zoning bylaws permitted under the definition social services facility find a description that matches what the mission and intent of Teen Challenge are. It reads as follows: social services facility means the use of a premise to provide social or welfare services to those in need for no fee or compensation, or at a fee recognized as being significantly less than charged by a profit-making organization. Services may include, but are not limited to, information, referral services, counseling, skill development, and the provision of food or clothing, life skill, personal development programs, alcohol, drug and substance abuse counseling center, and drop-in or activity space. Again, I believe this matches exactly what the Teen Challenge program does, and to support that mission, they accept donated items that they refurbish and sell. All these things working together will allow them to create an employment within a controlled, monitored work environment, and we believe that the primary use can be social services facility, and secondary use could be retail. As was previously mentioned, there are several precedents for specifically retail allowed in the zoning. For example, the most comparable one would be the local Matters thrift store, and a number of years back, the Menomart. Retail as a secondary use or permitted with other operations also has precedent in the zoning. Some examples that would come to mind would be the rental house, the lumber zone, Steinbach fire protection, and the common source. Setting up a new space is costly, and the current ownership group has been a supporter for Teen Challenge for many years and is committed to making this step possible for them as well, including capital and plans and so forth. To continue to operate and to provide, this is what they need to continue to operate and to provide the services that our community needs. Teen Challenge will need the buy-in from many members of the community, churches, individuals, so forth, and we are seeking buy-in today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I understand the reasons for not remaining at the current location. What is the reason for not moving to another commercially zoned property? Because we do have other commercial zones within Steinbach. Why specifically the industrial park for this?
So they approached us, and or they approached the Siemens Holdings and asked them if they could provide a solution, as well as make one available that is not as capital intensive for them. And so this seems to be a location, especially with the in light of the social services facility being allowed within that zone already.
Just a follow-up.
Yep, go ahead.
So when you say not as capital intensive, are you essentially saying that it's cheaper to go here because it's in the industrial park and it's subsidized?
No, the land cost is really not a big part of this equation. When it comes to outfitting spaces, costs can be 150, 200,000. Like they just skyrocket if they're not if things are not built to accommodate directly from the start, and so that ends up being the biggest barrier for organizations moving.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. My question is regarding a blanket request for the whole property to make it retail, and that's problematic in different ways. But why wouldn't you subdivide that property if you're dealing with Teen Challenge? If that's the initial intent, why wouldn't you subdivide specifically that piece and ask just for that piece as a?
So I believe on my application, I have to confirm this, but I asked specifically for adult and teen challenge. Nobody else shall be permitted to do retail on this location other than that, right? Many different municipalities handle this in different ways. For example, Neverville, I have a property that was not subdivided, and then And I have a couple different tenants moving in, and every tenant goes before council, and every business needs to get approved for their use. And so they start off with everything's forbidden until permitted, and so everybody gets a different use for their different unit. And so that's why we requested it specifically for adult routine challenge. I'm not sure if the city of Steinbach has a mechanism by which they can also accommodate such requests.
Go ahead.
Through you,
Yep.
to administration, can you respond to that?
There have been some applications in the past where a requested conditional use may impact a particular unit in the case of a industrial property that happens to be under a condominium style of ownership. When you do have an application in that type of circumstance, there is a legal title to a very specified location within the overall property. In a case such as this, where it is general traditional title on a non-condominium style property, and the fact that no buildings currently exist, it's only a conceptual plan, the only realistic result is that because the conditional use affects the title, and the title applies to the whole property, that is, from administration standpoint, that in that example, the conditional use, whether council approves it or denies it, does affect the entire title and therefore the entire parcel.
Thank you.
And perhaps
Go ahead.
to administration, do you have to go, I guess?
Yeah.
I'll just ask it. Is there another way of, a more efficient way of just permitting adult routine challenge to operate within given premises? I know, again, that other communities sometimes do it with, I believe the specific model Niverville has is an occupancy type of permit situation. So I'm not sure if such model can be used here. And I should add, because there's obviously a lot of other businesses that have a different operation, give it a rental house, lumber zone, whatever, those businesses also have a retail component to them. As we're studying this, we're also wondering, do we need retail? Do we actually need, if our primary use is a social service facility, did all those other businesses need retail as well, or how does that play out when you have a primary use and a secondary use?
I mean, I can answer that. Like some of the applications that we had that we did give, like, well, so for example, rental house, their sales are incidental to their business. So they're like they are rental, and so you rent a concrete, like a jackhammer. Well, you can go and you can buy a certain tip for that in the store. I mean, you can buy much other things, but there, some of those things are needed for the rental. So it's incidental to the rental business. So that kind of retail can be allowed. Now, the challenge I think we have here is because yours it's not a condoed lot. So it's not condoed to title, so then the whole lot has to be allowed to do retail. Is that how I'm understanding it, Mr. Workteam?
As far as the decision of council, because it affects the entire title and the entire parcel and the title are one and the same, then yes, it does affect the entire parcel of land.
Okay.
Would a retail, given the model that Adult Challenge has, and again, if you have questions, I'm sure Daniel's willing to answer those. Given the model that they are literally best described by the definition provided within the bylaw as a social services facility, could the retail be allowed within that definition as a secondary or incidental or an extension of such services?
I would have to ask administration, is that a allowable, the retail allowable to be tacked on to social services?
In the case of this application, given the interpretation is consistent with other similar types of operations in Steinbach, those have all been interpreted to be retail sales establishments.
Okay.
Therefore, that interpretation would not apply.
Okay. I guess that's not the answer you wanted, but does that answer your question?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
As far as condoing it and subdivision, that can be considered in the future. But typically, you have buildings up before you actually set. Subdivision is probably not a good one, just because it's not an efficient use of land. Subdivision causes different setbacks and whatnot between building. So most effective would be to conduit, because you can have party walls that you can share. So condoing could be considered, but typically the building's up and the surveyors take accurate measurements of party walls prior to that being allowed. So if council could say this camping permit is subject to a condo or a development agreement or something of those sorts, just isolate that specific unit, that's also, I think, a possible way of doing this.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Any other questions? Any further?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate you're trying to make something work here. Was this not part of the discussions you would have had with staff when you're making the application? I mean, it's a bit unusual for us to be parsing down into the weeds of, okay, well, now we can do it. Was this not part, was any of this discussed? Like, I'm sure concerns were, it was pointed out to you that this is not, you know, the intended use of the industrial property. Were these options not discussed at that time?
I was given the answer that it would have to follow, we would have to apply for conditional use. That was basic.
Okay.
Didn't explore it in detail. It was just mentioned that this would be retail, and which all of it would be.
Okay, and to be clear, Mr. Worthing to administration, if we make the conditional use, whatever we decide, this is on the entire parcel.
The decision would run with the land, and because the land is a single title, yes, it would affect the entire parcel.
Okay, so then that's concluded now. So whatever decision we make here, that rests on the entire parcel. Okay?
Could a decision be made on a to-be-created parcel?
No,
I'm a
this is,
creative guy.
we have the information that's in front of us is what we have to decide on. This is what's in front of us. So we'll have to decide on this information. Okay, we can't decide on what could be developed. We've got to decide on what is in front of us at this time.
Okay.
And that's just fair. Because then things could change all meeting long, right?
Which, if the newly created parcel does not get created, such permission would not be granted. But
Yeah.
I tried.
Okay, thanks. Is there anyone here with comments, questions, or objections to this file? I'll ask one more time. Is there anyone here with comments, questions, or objections to this file? Okay, yeah, you bet.
I just thought I would maybe answer your question, your original question of why.
Name and address, we should.
Oh, yeah, your name and address, please.
510 Pepperloaf Crescent, Winnipeg. The answer of why why has an adult and teen challenge looked at commercial properties we have? And there is, to my knowledge, and to our real estate agent's knowledge, no commercial properties that fit a 10,000 square foot model for us to be provided with the space that we need to efficiently and effectively run a adult teen challenge thrift program. So in talking to Mr. Budala, that was what the recommendation was that he could build a facility that would accommodate us and he could help support financially with just to speak to the social service model of it, really our thrift stores are a place where our clients, our students that are in our program here, particularly in Steinbach, 75 Westview, go every day to do work therapy. And it is a safe environment for them to go. And yes, we do have to generate revenue, but we're taking donations, we're sorting them, we're fixing them, and then we're turning them into money to fund our program. It is a not-for-profit business. So if that helps the application anywhere in the decision of I wasn't aware that the land was discounted land or whatever. So that's new knowledge to me, but I would ask council to really consider providing the opportunity, whatever way that we can do it. But this will be a huge setback for us if we have to close the thrift store and the community office, which we run daily support groups. We do daily addiction counseling out of, and that's approximately 2,500 square feet of the current 7,000 feet that we use on Main Street. So this model would be duplicated in this new facility where 2,500 square feet of that would be a meeting room, counseling offices, and places for families to come anonymously to seek help from their family struggling with addiction. So, and then also the sales floor or the warehousing space would be providing work therapy and drug treatment for individuals in the programs. So definitely is a different use than any kind of normal retail place.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I'll ask again. Is there anyone here with comments, questions, or objections to this file?
So as specifically as to timing, because of the development happening at 366, they have to be, I believe, out of there before next winter, and so there's a bit of a time crunch as part of all that, and you may have seen some existing materials already arriving at Main Street as we're taking delivery of building that the back building there, so just figured I'd add that into the vision.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else with questions, comments, or objections to this file? Okay. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, open the council meeting. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Siemens?
I'll make the motion to deny.
Do you have a seconder? Second by Councillor Hebert. Go ahead, Councillor Siemens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think we have a choice but to deny it. The biggest reason is that it runs with the land. The request runs with the land. So that anything built on there, which would, any building built could become retail space. So that means we're giving away retail space. So the industrial parks are built by the taxpayer. The taxpayer builds these industrial parks to attract business. And the business that it attracts is hopefully manufacturing, hopefully it's jobs in our community. It's people that can build livelihoods. That's what our industrial. For a private enterprise, individuals come in and build industrial parks. It's a huge outlay in cash, and sometimes there is only a 20-25-year return on investment, if that. So the city builds these industrial parks. We're using tax dollars and granting, and we sell the lots at cost or just above cost. So we cover our cost for roads, for the cost of land, cost of water, cost of sewer, and those aren't just any old roads. Those are concrete roads that go in so that they can be available any time of year. They're unrestricted roads. And so essentially, well, if we approve this and it becomes retail space, then we are in direct competition to other commercial property developers in Steinbach. The mall, the whatever those are. So now the city, and that's not the intent of an industrial park. So I appreciate what you're trying to do here. That I don't want to belittle the fact. I appreciate what Teen Challenge does in our community because they They are doing a good job here as well, and I understand that, and I don't want to belittle that at all. But here there's two different decisions for council. Do we make this decision because we've got a heart for Team Challenge, and so that's what the presentation is. And so we have the whole development, but we're going to allow Team Challenge to move there, which is fine, or could be fine if we approve. But then there's also all these retail spaces, and now the owner, whoever that might be, can put whatever retail establishments want. Now that's a direct competition to the retail property. So I don't know, and it's precedent setting. So we got a report here that says there's precedent's been set. Local Matters Thrift Store, the skirts, that doesn't mean those were the right decisions at the time either. Those were decisions made at the time with the information we had at those times. And I think we still have to focus why we built an industrial park, what it's there for. And that's why I suggested a subdivision where Teen Challenge, if that's what the opportunity is, comes on its own. And that's what you want to develop in an industrial park. That's a different discussion than this one. Today, the discussion is before us is, are we going to allow retail through that whole piece of property, and they can put as many units, the picture shows, what, 5, 6 or more units, that all of them can be retail. Now we're building a retail mall potentially in an industrial park, and I don't think we can, I think we should vote against that.
Thank you. Anything further?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank the presenters here today for coming here and presenting this on this application. Yeah, I appreciate what you said. It definitely tugs at the heartstrings. Your organization that you're representing here is an excellent organization. The thrift store, the furniture repair, obviously giving employment to your clients. Very, very important to the whole makeup of your organization. And again, excellent, excellent work you're doing. Can't take anything away from that. However, as been indicated, this is a subsidized lot. And regarding the comment on the condo, that obviously isn't what is being applied for, so we're not even going to consider that. But my position in the past has been consistently, I vote against retail in the light industrial area. And previous applications in this area have all met with my negative vote, and I maintain the same today.
Thank you. Anything further of council? Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will support the motion to deny. I think it's important that we protect the integrity of the industrial park. We do have industrial land for a reason. It's specifically to attract industry, manufacturing, retail, commercial should be located in commercial zones, and that's the decision we have to make. And I also agree with Councillor Siemens' comments that this, this is a fact, this applies to the whole property, and I'm just not prepared to set a precedent far beyond any that have already been set in terms of the amount of retail that could potentially be allowed, even if that's not what's intended to go there now. This attaches to the entire land, so I will also vote to deny.
Councillor Hebert.
Mr. Mayor, I totally feel for Teen Challenge. I would love to see them have a facility in Steinbach, and I'm hoping that you can find a spot where you can build something that'll work for you. And I agree with Councillor Siemens as well, that this is an industrial area and this does apply to the whole property, and that's problematic. So I'll vote against it as well.
Anything further of council? Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can't really add too much from what has already been said, but I also will support the motion to deny. Again, I'll echo the sentiments. Teen Challenge is a phenomenal organization. I'm glad that it operates within Steinbach, and I hope that it does have an opportunity to continue to flourish in Steinbach. However, having said that, I appreciate that organizationally you are social services, and that is at your heart. That is what you are wanting to do. But operationally, this is a retail business, and comes with the same traffic, the same challenges that any other retail would, regardless of what operation or organizationally you're trying to achieve. So I can't see how we can have retail in the industrial like this.
Anything further, council? Anything in closing?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, council, this is a difficult decision. This is, it's not a decision based on the good that the Teen Challenge does. This is based on what is good for this piece of property. Now, as Councillor Siemens alluded to, yes, there is retail in that area, and he alluded to that maybe not all those decisions were the right ones. For the information we had at the time, yeah, maybe they were right. I think if we could go back now and make some of these decisions again, you might see that they're different, as we see what's developing there. My challenge with this property, I do believe Teen Challenge would do a great job on this property, and I understand what you need for your social program to go forward. But my challenge with this property is that the conditional use goes with the entire property. Anything can happen at that point. Anyone can do retail. And do we create a little mini mall in the industrial park? That is the challenge I have. And for that reason, I will be in favor of this and vote in favor of the motion. Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, Council, we have 6B. This is bylaw 2260. This is rezoning of 69 and 85 First Street. At this time, I will close the council meeting and open the public hearing. Mr. Working, could you please introduce this file?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a public hearing for rezoning bylaw 2260, which affects 79 and 85 First Street. The owner of the properties is JDL Holdings LTD, with the applicant for bylaw 2260 being Vote Building Construction. Purpose of the bylaw is to rezone the subject properties from RLD, residential low density, to RMD, residential medium density, to permit a multifamily development to be developed. Notices, as are required under the Planning Act, have been issued. There is no written correspondence on file except for a letter from Community Planning received earlier today, which indicates that the province has no concerns with the application. With respect to the proposal, the developer does propose to create 17 residential units on the subject property. One of the two existing parcels is vacant, while the other contains a single unit residential structure, which would need to be removed prior to development. Based on the site plan that has been submitted, there is also part of the development proposes to create an access directly to the existing back lane, for which there would be further development obligations through the development agreement. Recommendation from administration is that council give this bylaw second reading, subject to the execution of a development agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Working. Is the developer here at this? Would you like to speak?
I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has, if there's any clarity I can provide.
Okay, I'll have you come to the podium, state your name and address.
My name is Jared Vogt. I live at 84 Lake Park Drive in Winnipeg. I operate Vote Building Construction and also one of the JDL holdings.
Okay. And are there any questions, or is there anything you can add to this?
No, I think we've worked hard here to come up with a plan that meets all the city bylaws. Our hope is to not be requesting any variances should this be approved. I think we have more than enough parking being proposed on the site. I think it's consistent with land use in the area. The lot was bought quite some time ago by my father, and my family now hopes to continue on this journey and get this building built.
Okay, thank you. And is there any questions, council? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One quick question. How many stories are you planning to build? And the reason I'm asking that is, how does it relate to the landscape of the other houses and buildings in the area?
Best described as a bi-level, so story and a half, to answer your question.
Thank you.
Anything further? Okay, you can have a seat.
Sure.
Is there anyone here with comments, questions, or objections to this file? I'll ask again, anyone here with comments, questions, or objections to this file? It's a little redundant, but we like to ask this 3 times. Is there anyone here with comments, questions, or objections to this file? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing, open the council meeting. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Swagstra?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a motion to approve second reading.
Second by Councillor Pinner. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an application to rezone these properties from residential low density to residential medium density. And the proposal here would be to develop 17 residential units on the subject property. And the plan looks reasonable. There are no variances that are required. And importantly, no one from the neighborhood is here expressing any concerns about that, which is nice to see when, in terms of a switch to medium density, because often these are the kinds of applications that tend to get a lot of people raising concerns. And so clearly the plans that have been seen haven't raised any concerns with anyone. And so we do need more housing in Steinbach. Having increased density is something which is positive. We have seen many of these rezonings happen along First Street, so this does seem to be the next logical change on the street.
Thank you. Anything further?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this property is located in our central business district, a transitional policy area. Naturally, that we see properties get rezoned from low density to medium density for a variety of reasons. The central business district is an area we've kind of earmarked and tagged as an area where we know that it's viable for walking, for more density to support the local businesses around there, and for ease of life for the residents as well. Also of note, I want to appreciate that give appreciation to the developer for 3-bedroom and 2-bedroom units. So they're very desirable. It's nice to see units coming up that are more able to support families as well, and not just individuals. So it's good. It's good longevity housing there as well. So and with no public feedback in the negative, I don't see any reason to deny this.
Thank you. Anything further of council? Anything in closing? Well, council, I will also support the motion. I think that this is just natural for this area. This area has gone over a lot of rebirth in a way. Like there's been a lot of multifamily put there, and I think it's the perfect spot because it's a nice buffer from the highway and then commercial, and then you've got the multifamily and then going to lower density on the other side of the road. I think it's just natural. It's a natural progression. I think it's worked out well. It served us well, and I think this is a great way to go. Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Okay. Okay, council will move to reports and recommendations of the city manager. This is the Harmony Lane at Cutlass Drive stop control report. Starts on page 23. Mr. Workening, did you want to go over this with any highlights, or?
I could. I will keep it brief. The report it starts on page 23 in council's agenda package. Further to council's request when this was first brought up in January 21st, I've asked my staff to analyze the intersection. So the city's engineer has conducted the review and provided the report. In general, just to highlight the existing request from the Eliases that was received by City Council, requested a review of the intersection of Harmony Lane at Cutlass Drive in Steinbach. It's currently a one-way stop, which does require westbound traffic on Cutlass Drive to stop before entering Harmony Lane. The research did include a review of the vehicle and pedestrian traffic flows at the intersection, and it did consider several other site-specific factors that may have had an impact on its function. Generally, based on the findings of the review, the signage that is present at the intersection with the one stop sign already there is appropriate for the volume of traffic that was observed, and no changes were warranted. If there are concerns about traffic disobeying the posted speed limit, this should be considered an enforcement issue and dealt with by the RCMP. And therefore, the recommendation from administration is that no changes to signage at this intersection are required, and nor should any be made.
Council, I do want to state that at the last RCMP advisory meeting, Councillor Swagstra did bring this concern forward, and our staff sergeant has agreed and said that they would put some RCMP detail on this road to ensure and make sure that any speeders would be stopped and taken care of. So the control will be taken care of there. Anything that, as far as the speed goes, I do believe that our RCMP will definitely enforce that and make sure that that gets taken care of. And I'm pretty happy with the rest of this information. Even the collision numbers are very low on this road. So I at this time, as long as the RCMP are going to be monitoring and enforcing speeds on that length of street, I'm totally okay at accepting this report. Go ahead, Councillor Swagstra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would concur. I think it's important that as a council, we make our decisions on the basis of evidence, and I'm impressed by the thoroughness of the report. It looked at a number of different angles, looked at the number of pedestrians, did the traffic count, looked at safety statistics, and even consulted with Hanover School Division, the Director of Transportation, to see if there have been any concerns that the school division has raised. And on every single one of the objective criteria that we have, there are no changes that are warranted to the intersection. And yes, at the RCMP advisory meeting, the staff sergeant has agreed to monitor this area a bit more closely, just to make sure that speeds are being enforced properly. But the reason we commission reports like this is so that way we can have the evidence before us. And the evidence does indicate that the signage we have now and the way that it's set up is appropriate. So I would concur with the recommendation that we leave the intersection as it is.
So consensus of council? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wortine, and your staff for taking care of this and giving us this report. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we've got 9A, the accounts payable, back of the book. We've all had a chance to review. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Hebert. Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We've got 9B, the financial statements ending December 31st, 2024. That's also in the back of the book. Added Councillor Hebert. That's motion to approve.
Yes.
Second by Councillor Siemens. Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, we've got the Manitoba Water Service Board grant. This is referring to Park Road West Forcemain resolution. Council, administration needs a resolution in order to go forward to apply for the granting from the Water Stewardship Board. Okay? So looking for a motion to Councillor Siemens.
Motion to approve.
Second by Councillor Hebert. Go ahead, Councillor Siemens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a request, so we can request funding for 50% of the construction costs of City Lift Station number 1, Lagoon Main Force Twinning project that we talked about a number of weeks ago that we approved City Council. Now we're asking for funding through the Manitoba Water Services Board. I believe that project was about $6.2 million. That number isn't here, but if my memory serves me right, it's about $6.2 million. So we would expect approximately $3 million grant is what the request for, so that we can continue to update our lagoon.
Anything further? Anything further of council? Anything closing?
No, sir.
Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We got 9D, business licenses for January 2025. There is a motion on page 32. Looking for a motion to approve the business licenses. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Hebert. Any comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The majority of these, for the resident ones, are individuals operating low-impact businesses out of their homes, and for non-resident are non-resident businesses of Steinbach to operate within the city of Steinbach.
Thank you. Anything further?
Nothing to add.
Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We got 9E, the building permits of for January 2025. It's on page 33. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Schweikster,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a motion to approve.
second by Councillor Siemens. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As is noted here, we are at just over $1.6 million in building permits in the month of January, and that is all residential in this case. A total of 8 dwelling units that are added. January is often one of the slower months of the year, but even in one of our slower months, we always have development happening. It's good to see that there is more residential development that is happening in Steinbach. We need as many units as we can get because there's obviously a huge demand. And so even a slower month for Steinbach is still a significant amount, and so it is good to see development continuing.
Any further?
Yes, just one comment on here is 2 demolition permit requirements. That means there's 2 old dilapidated homes are coming out, so new construction can happen there as well. So I think it's always important to recognize new construction, but also those that are being taken out to provide for new construction.
Thank you. Anything further of council? Anything closing? Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We got 9F, excavator licenses. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hebert. Motion to
I will
approve.
motion to approve, yeah.
Second by Councillor Hebert. Go ahead.
My comment is, yes, we need excavators to get projects on the go, to build houses, to take down houses. So let's give them approval.
Here, here. Well said.
Anything further? No? Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Got 9G, this is bylaw 2261. This is referring to 189 Hanover Street. This will be first reading. Mr. Worthing, could you please introduce this file?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The application under bylaw 2261 seeks to rezone the subject parcel located at 189 Hanover Street from RLD, residential low density, to RMD, residential medium density. This is for the intended proposal to develop a 6-unit multi-family structure on the site. Recommendation from administration is council give this bylaw first reading so that a public hearing may be scheduled for later on this spring.
Thank you, Mr. Worthing. Council,
Motion to approve.
second by Councillor Schweikster. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a property that's today sitting empty on Hanover Street. My aunt built the original house in there in my great aunt built the original house in 1946. So, and the horse is gone today too because it's an empty lot. So if by approving first reading, we can go to public hearing and second reading.
Anything further?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have the same personal connection to the property, so all I can say is that obviously I do agree that it's important to have the public hearing process. That's why we give first reading.
Anything further of council? Anything closing?
That's enough.
Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, council, we have 9H. On page 43, we got the business tax in 2004 small balance cancellations. These are cancellations due to businesses closing or moving. So we just have to make a motion to accept, to write these off. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Hebert,
Motion to approve.
second by Councillor Hebert. Any comments?
But further to your comments, Mr. Mayor, it's, we're just ratifying the, what administration has brought before us that in tax cuts and repayments or businesses closing. So it's just an administration motion.
Yeah. Anything further?
Nothing to add.
Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We've got 9I. This is Realty tax cancellations. Again, this is another housekeeping. Move that we do every year. Just looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Swagstra.
I have
Any
no
comments?
comment on the file.
Nothing?
No comment.
No comment. Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Councillor, are there any questions of council today? Okay, seeing none. We've got correspondence and petitions. This is 11A. This is Management, Transportation, Infrastructure, Emergency Management Organization. This is referring to disaster financial assistance for damages in September 16th and 18th, 2024. This is a letter just stating that the Manitoba government, that Steinbach has not qualified for disaster financial assistance.
Yes, question,
Yeah.
administration, through you. Is there any appeal to the process? Number one would be a question. And then it seems that we met all three criteria that they've listed here in the letter, but we were still denied. Does that mean homeowners were denied as well? Do we apply on behalf of the homeowner or just from the city's perspective?
No, they are separate applications. The city of Steinbach, I guess, is, I believe, twofold. Firstly, the city of Steinbach decided to apply based on the actual dollar value of damages that it incurred as a result of the storms. Secondly, for disaster financial assistance program to become activated, or even the possibility for it to become activated within a community, the city of Steinbach also needs to submit an application duly approved by a resolution, so that the DFA office would even consider private property owners' applications. So the city does not actually make applications on behalf of the owners. Those are sent in directly. However, based on the overall impact of the damages that are being claimed by private property owners, generally how widespread the damages incurred were, and the degree of uninsurable losses that were incurred by property owners. Those are all factors that are considered along with many others. So there are several components to the decision. However, also to my knowledge, I don't believe that there is an appeal process, but given that the city's total damages that it incurred as an organization, those were significantly below the general threshold that DFA would activate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Okay. How do you like to proceed? Take this information. Thank you. Okay, 11B. This is the Eastman Regional Municipal Committee South Subcommittee, minutes of August 12th, September 9th, November 18th, and January 13th. Council, would you like to proceed? Take it as information at this time? Okay. There's no other business. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Hebert. Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried.